chosen one. Before wealth enters your life, something strange begins to happen inside you. Not around you first. Inside you. The people around you may think nothing is changing. Your room looks the same. Your bank account may still look the same. Your daily routine may still feel ordinary. But deep down, you start sensing that your old life is slowly losing its grip on you. And that feeling is not random, because before elevation comes, there are signs, quiet signs, spiritual signs, painful signs. Signs most people ignore because they are too distracted to notice what heaven is preparing behind the scenes. Many people think wealth begins with money. It does not. Real wealth begins with separation. A shift in thinking. A season of discomfort. A season where everything familiar suddenly starts feeling heavy. And if you have been feeling that lately, this message may explain why. If that description landed somewhere true in you, hit the like button right now. Not for this video, as your first signal that you are already paying attention to what is moving inside you. One of the first signs is isolation. Not because you hate people, not because you suddenly became cold, but because your spirit can no longer survive in environments that shrink your future. You start pulling away from noise. Certain conversations exhaust you. Drama feels childish. Fake friendships become easy to recognize. And the strange part is you did not plan this change. It happened naturally. The places that once entertained you now feel empty. The habits that once comforted you now feel destructive. Even some people you once loved deeply begin feeling distant, even while sitting beside you. That is not always loneliness. Sometimes it is preparation, because growth often begins where comfort ends. A person cannot step into a greater life while carrying the mindset of their smaller one. And before wealth arrives, your mind starts changing first. You begin thinking differently about time, differently about energy, differently about your future. You stop wanting temporary pleasure all the time. You start craving peace, clarity, purpose. And while others are chasing attention, you quietly begin chasing alignment. That shift matters more than you realize, because wealth is not only attracted to hard work, it is attracted to discipline, vision, self-control. Many people work hard their entire lives and still remain trapped, because internally, nothing changed. But when your thinking changes, your direction changes. And when your direction changes, your future changes with it. Another sign appears when your old habits start collapsing. Things you once depended on suddenly stop satisfying you. You try to enjoy them again, but something feels off. Your spirit resists it, and at first, this feels confusing. You wonder why you no longer fit into the version of yourself that once felt normal. But this happens because transformation always creates tension. Your future self begins fighting your old self. One side wants comfort. The other side wants destiny. One side wants excuses. The other side wants growth. And that internal battle becomes intense before breakthrough seasons. This is why many people feel emotionally exhausted right before their life changes. Not because they are weak, but because internally, an old identity is dying. And most people never talk about this stage. They only celebrate success after it arrives. Nobody talks about the silent mental warfare before the blessing appears. The nights where you question yourself. The mornings where motivation disappears. The moments where you feel close to giving up, while something inside you still whispers to keep moving. That whisper matters, because sometimes your spirit reorganizes your future before your eyes can see it. Type, "I am still moving" in the comments right now. Not as a reply, as the declaration that the whisper inside you was right. Another sign is unusual resistance. Suddenly, everything becomes difficult. Plans delay, doors close. People disappoint you. Unexpected problems appear from nowhere, and it feels almost unfair. You start asking yourself why life became heavier the moment you started trying to improve yourself. But resistance often appears when your life is approaching transition, because pressure reveals what weakness cannot survive. Think about it. Gold is refined through fire. Diamonds are created under pressure, and many people pray for elevation without realizing elevation requires transformation. The version of you that can manage greater wealth, greater opportunities, greater influence must be mentally stronger than the current version. So, life starts teaching you endurance before the reward arrives. And while it feels painful, it is building capacity inside you. Another powerful sign is when your intuition becomes sharper. You begin sensing things before they happen. You feel energy differently. You notice hidden intentions quicker. You stop ignoring red flags. Your discernment becomes stronger because your future requires better decisions. Wealth without wisdom destroys people. That is why some people receive money and lose themselves completely. But when heaven prepares someone for abundance, discernment increases first. You begin understanding who truly supports you and who only supports the version of you they can control. You start seeing how some people secretly benefited from your insecurity. As long as you doubted yourself, they felt comfortable around you. But the moment your confidence begins growing, their energy changes, and this realization hurts. Because sometimes the people clapping the loudest for you are strangers, while the people closest to you become uncomfortable with your growth. Not everyone can handle watching somebody rise, especially when they stayed the same themselves. And this is another sign. Your circle starts changing before your life changes. Certain people slowly disappear, communication fades, connections weaken. At first it feels heartbreaking, but later you realize some people were assignments for a season, not companions for destiny. Because every new level requires different thinking, different habits, different conversations. You cannot build a greater future while remaining surrounded by constant negativity, gossip, jealousy, and limitation. Another sign appears when you become more emotionally aware. You stop reacting instantly to everything. The things that once triggered anger no longer control you as easily. You begin protecting your peace more seriously. This maturity does not happen overnight. Usually it comes after disappointment, after betrayal, after pain. Pain teaches lessons comfort never could, and many people do not realize this. But emotional control is deeply connected to wealth. A person who cannot control emotions often cannot control success either, because money amplifies character. If someone lacks discipline before wealth, that weakness usually becomes bigger after wealth arrives. So before greater blessings enter your life, life often forces emotional growth first. You learn patience, restraint. You stop explaining yourself to everybody. You stop seeking validation constantly. And quietly, your confidence becomes internal instead of external. That is powerful, because the strongest people in the room are usually not the loudest ones. They move with calmness, clarity, focus. Another sign is unusual hunger for knowledge. You suddenly want to learn more, grow more, understand life deeper. Your attention shifts. You start paying attention to mindset, discipline, purpose, business, health, spirituality, and self-development. Not because someone forced you, because internally, you know your old mindset cannot carry your future life. And this is where many people separate themselves from average thinking. Average people wait for opportunity before changing, but transformed people change before opportunity arrives. That is why they are ready when doors finally open. And sometimes the biggest sign wealth is approaching is this. You stop obsessing over money every second. You become more focused on becoming the kind of person capable of sustaining abundance. Because deep down, you understand something important. Fast success without inner growth usually creates destruction. But lasting success built on wisdom creates peace. And peace is a form of wealth many rich people never find. The truth is, your life may look confusing right now. You may feel disconnected, emotionally stretched, mentally exhausted. But what if this season is not punishment? What if it is preparation? What if the delays are building patience? What if the isolation is building focus? What if the pressure is building strength? Most people quit during transition seasons because externally nothing seems to make sense yet. But transformation is often invisible before it becomes visible. A seed underground looks like nothing is happening, yet beneath the surface roots are forming. And roots matter more than appearances, because when storms come, shallow things collapse first. The people who rise and remain strong are usually the ones who survived. Hidden preparation seasons. Nobody applauded. And maybe that is exactly where you are right now, at the edge of a new season without fully realizing it yet. Because before wealth comes, life rarely becomes comfortable first. Usually, it becomes uncomfortable, stretching, revealing, and only later do people look back and understand why everything had to happen the way it did. There comes a moment before your life changes when everything feels strangely quiet. Not peaceful, quiet. Uncertain, quiet. The kind of silence that makes you wonder if anything is even moving anymore. You keep trying, keep hoping, keep praying, keep working behind the scenes. But outwardly, it feels like nothing is responding. And that stage breaks many people. Because human beings naturally want evidence before belief. They want visible movement before trust. But some of the biggest transformations begin in silence first. A tree does not become strong overnight. Its roots deepen long before its branches become visible. And before wealth enters your life, there is often a hidden season where your foundation is being strengthened quietly. This is the season where discipline is tested. Can you stay focused when nobody praises you? Can you remain consistent when results are delayed? Can you continue building when your current reality still looks small? Most people cannot. That is why many dreams die early. Not because people lack talent, not because they lack potential, because they lose patience during invisible seasons. And invisible seasons are dangerous. Nobody claps for hidden work. Nobody notices private sacrifices. Nobody sees the nights where you battle fear alone. But those hidden moments shape people more than public victories ever will. There is someone still in their invisible season right now. Still doing the work nobody applauds. Still showing up in the dark before anything visible has appeared. Still wondering if the private sacrifice is building anything real. Through the link in the description or the pinned comment, plant a seed here, not as a donation, as proof that hidden work has a destination. The same way your unseen effort is building something your current reality cannot yet show. What you release here reaches someone still underground, still in the root stage, still needing to know that the invisible season is doing something real. As you give, bring the sacrifice nobody witnessed, the night nobody saw, the decision you made alone that cost you something real. Place that inside what you let go. A seed sown from inside a hidden season carries the weight of everything that season built in you. And if someone came to mind while you were reading that someone still in their invisible season, still doing the work nobody sees, share this with them right now. not as a video, as confirmation that what they are building underground is real. One of the strongest signs that wealth is approaching is when your tolerance for wasting time disappears. You begin valuing your hours differently. You notice how distracted the world has become, how people spend years entertaining themselves while ignoring their purpose. And suddenly, you no longer want to live that way. Your mind starts protecting your energy. You become careful about what enters your spirit, what conversations you entertain, what habits control your day. Because deep down, you start sensing your future requires more from you. This is why certain distractions begin falling away naturally. Not through force, through awareness. You realize some things were stealing your focus for years. Endless scrolling, pointless arguments, negative environments, people who only appear when they need something from you. And the more clarity you gain, the harder it becomes to return to old patterns. Another sign appears when you start feeling uncomfortable settling for less, even if your current situation is modest. Something inside refuses to believe this is your final chapter. And no, this is not arrogance, it is vision. There is a difference between ego and inner knowing. Ego screams and searches for attention. Inner knowing stays quiet but persistent. It whispers to you during difficult moments. It reminds you there is more ahead even when circumstances disagree. And before wealth arrives, that inner knowing becomes stronger. You begin seeing possibilities differently. You think bigger, dream bigger, move differently. Not because you suddenly think you are better than others, but because your mindset starts expanding beyond survival. This shift is powerful because survival thinking keeps people trapped in fear. Fear of failure, fear of loss, fear of risk, fear of change. But growth requires movement, and many people stay broke emotionally, spiritually, and financially because fear convinced them comfort was safer than transformation. Another sign appears when your old environment starts feeling too small for your future vision. You may still love people around you, but internally, you know you cannot remain mentally confined there forever. You begin craving growth conversations, purpose-driven people, visionary thinking. The things that once impressed you no longer impress you anymore. You stop worshiping appearances. You start paying attention to substance, character, discipline, integrity, consistency, because your spirit begins understanding something most people learn too late. Real wealth is not just money. Money without peace becomes misery. Money without wisdom becomes chaos. Money without discipline disappears quickly. That is why some people become rich temporarily, but never truly abundant. True abundance changes the person internally first, and that internal change often feels lonely, because not everyone understands the version of you that is emerging. Some people only feel comfortable with your old identity. The insecure version, the doubtful version, the easily controlled version. But once your confidence starts growing quietly, relationships begin shifting, and sometimes the hardest part of elevation is realizing who secretly benefited from your lack of growth. Not everybody wants to see you evolve. Some people prefer the version of you that stayed small enough to protect their comfort. That realization hurts deeply, especially when it comes from people you genuinely cared about. But this too is part of preparation, because before greater opportunities arrive, unhealthy attachments are often exposed first. Life starts revealing who drains you and who strengthens you, who speaks life into your future, and who secretly doubts your potential. And once your eyes open to this, you cannot unsee it anymore. Another powerful sign is increased emotional pressure. not ordinary stress, a deeper pressure, almost like life is forcing you to confront every weakness you kept avoiding. Your fears surface, your insecurities surface, your unresolved wounds surface, and it feels overwhelming sometimes. But this process matters, because hidden wounds become dangerous when success arrives. Many people think wealth solves internal problems. It does not. Money often magnifies what already exists inside a person. An insecure person with money often becomes more insecure. An angry person with power often becomes more destructive. That is why preparation matters so much. Before greater blessings enter your hands, life often works on your character first. It teaches humility, patience, self-awareness. And sometimes these lessons arrive through pain. Pain has a way of exposing truth quickly. It reveals fake loyalty, false confidence, weak foundations. But pain also builds depth. The deepest people are usually those who survived seasons nobody else understood. The seasons that produce the deepest people are the ones nobody outside ever fully understood. Someone watching right now is still inside that season, still surviving something they cannot fully explain to anyone around them, still carrying a depth that has not yet found its expression. Through the link in the description or the pinned comment, plant a seed here, not as a donation, as a bridge from the version of you that already came through to the one still finding their way through. What you plant does not go toward a voice. It goes toward the soul still inside the pressure that shaped you. One message away from understanding that the weight they are carrying is not punishment. It is formation. As you give, bring the season that made you deepest, the one you would never want to repeat, but cannot imagine becoming who you are without. Place that inside your seed, and trust that what it cost you is exactly what someone else needs to find their way out. Another sign wealth is approaching is unusual creativity. Ideas start flowing into your mind unexpectedly. New visions, new goals, new solutions. You begin seeing opportunities where others only see obstacles, and this is important because wealth often begins as an idea before it becomes reality. Everything around you right now once existed in somebody's imagination first. A business, a movement, a breakthrough, a new life. And before major change happens externally, the mind usually awakens internally. First, this is why protecting your mental environment becomes critical during transition seasons. The wrong voices can kill potential before it fully develops. Some people speak from fear, not wisdom, from limitation, not vision. If you listen too closely to small thinking, eventually your life shrinks to match it. That is why people preparing for greater things often feel separated emotionally from certain environments. Their spirit outgrows them before their physical reality changes. And while this process feels uncomfortable, it serves a purpose. Another sign appears when you stop needing constant approval. You begin moving differently in silence. You no longer announce every goal. You no longer explain every dream, because experience taught you something valuable. Not everyone deserves access to your vision while it is still growing. Some people speak doubt over things they were never meant to understand. So, you become quieter, more focused, more intentional. And this quietness is not weakness. It is maturity. A seed grows underground in silence, before the world ever sees the tree. And many people destroy their own progress by seeking validation too early. But when true transformation begins happening inside someone, they stop needing applause every step of the way. They become anchored internally, Another powerful sign wealth is near is this: your priorities start changing permanently. Temporary pleasure loses power over you. You start thinking long-term. You care more about legacy than appearances, more about freedom than attention, more about purpose than popularity. That shift changes everything, because the world constantly trains people to chase image over substance. But lasting success is built quietly, patiently. Before wealth arrives, many people experience a season where life forces them to choose between distraction and destiny, between comfort and growth, between excuses and discipline. And those choices shape the future more than people realize. The truth is, many individuals miss their next season because they keep trying to remain the same person while asking for a different life. But transformation requires surrender. Old habits must die. Old thinking must die. Old limitations must die. And while that process feels painful, it creates space for something greater to emerge. Right now, you may feel stretched emotionally, mentally exhausted, spiritually tested. But sometimes the pressure you feel is evidence that your life is expanding beyond its old limits. Sometimes discomfort is not destruction. Sometimes it is preparation for overflow. And the people who eventually step into greater seasons are usually the ones who kept going when nothing around them made sense yet. If this season has felt heavy lately, there may be more happening behind the scenes than you realize. Because before wealth arrives, life often begins transforming the person first. Before wealth changes your surroundings, it changes your vision. You begin noticing things you ignored for years: the way people think, the way they speak about life, the way fear controls entire decisions without them realizing it. And slowly, you stop seeing the world the same way. What once looked normal now feels limiting. What once felt impossible now feels reachable. This shift does not happen overnight. It happens through pressure, disappointment, growth. And most people misunderstand this stage completely. They think their life is falling apart, when in reality life is separating them from versions of themselves that can no longer go where they are headed. That separation hurts, because even unhealthy familiarity can feel comfortable. People stay connected to draining relationships because they fear loneliness. They stay inside small routines because they fear uncertainty. They stay trapped in old identities because they fear transformation. But before elevation happens, comfort usually becomes unbearable. You start feeling restless inside, not because you are ungrateful, because your spirit senses movement before your physical reality catches up. And this internal restlessness becomes stronger with time. You begin craving more meaning from life, more purpose, more peace, more freedom. Not only financially, emotionally too. Because real wealth is not waking up every day trapped inside stress, fear, exhaustion, and emptiness, while pretending everything is okay. Real wealth is alignment. It is waking up with clarity. It is having peace in your spirit. It is knowing your life has direction. And strangely enough, many people only start understanding this after painful seasons humble them. Pain changes perspective quickly. Things you once begged for suddenly stop mattering. Things you ignored suddenly become priceless. Your peace becomes valuable. Your energy becomes valuable. Your time becomes valuable. And this is another sign transformation is already happening inside you. You stop giving unlimited access to people who constantly drain you. You stop shrinking yourself just to make others comfortable. You stop apologizing for wanting a better life, because eventually something inside you realizes that constantly sacrificing your future to protect other people's comfort is not loyalty. It is self-abandonment. And many people live their entire lives abandoning themselves just to avoid criticism. But growth requires courage. There will always be people who misunderstand your evolution, people who mock your discipline, people who secretly resent your ambition, not because you harm them, because your growth reminds them of the risks they never took themselves. And once you understand this, you stop taking every opinion personally. You realize projection is common. People often speak from their own fears, limitations, and disappointments. Someone who gave up on their dreams may try convincing you to lower yours too. Someone afraid of failure may criticize your risks. Someone uncomfortable with change may resist your transformation, but their fear cannot become your future. And before wealth enters your life, learning to protect your mindset becomes critical, because your environment influences your thinking more than you realize. Negative voices slowly create negative beliefs. Small thinking slowly creates smaller actions. That is why people preparing for greater things often become more selective with their circle. Not from arrogance, from awareness. You begin understanding that energy matters, conversations matter, thought patterns matter, daily habits matter. Everything repeated consistently eventually shapes identity, and identity shapes destiny. Type 888 in the comments, the number of abundance and new beginnings. Let it mark the moment your mindset shifted from surviving to building something greater. Another sign wealth is approaching is increased self-respect. You start valuing yourself differently, not in an ego-driven way, in a grounded way. You begin realizing your time has value, your attention has value, your presence has value, and because of that, your standards rise naturally. You stop tolerating disrespect so easily. You stop chasing people who constantly overlook you. You stop begging for opportunities where you are clearly undervalued, because internally, you begin understanding something powerful. What belongs to you will not require you to destroy your dignity to keep it. That realization changes everything. Many people delay their own breakthrough by clinging desperately to places, people, and situations that were only temporary chapters. But growth requires release, and release is painful. Sometimes life removes people you thought would stay forever. Sometimes doors close unexpectedly. Sometimes plans collapse without warning. And in those moments, it feels cruel. But later, you realize certain things had to end because they were blocking what was trying to enter your life next. This is why many breakthroughs arrive disguised as endings first. A relationship ends, a job changes, an opportunity disappears. And initially, it feels like loss. But eventually you recognize it was redirection. Because not every closed door is punishment. Some closed doors are protection. Another sign is unusual resilience. You notice that things which once would have broken you completely no longer destroy you the same way. You recover faster, think clearer, adapt quicker. That growth matters deeply because greater opportunities require emotional stability. Imagine receiving major success while emotionally collapsing over every obstacle. It would destroy you. So before life expands externally, it often strengthens people internally first. And strength is usually built through survival. Through difficult mornings, silent battles, unexpected disappointments. The strongest individuals are rarely those who avoided hardship. They are the ones who endured it without losing themselves completely. Another major sign wealth is near is this: you become less reactive and more introspective. You stop needing instant gratification constantly. You become patient with process. That patience is rare in today's world. Most people want immediate results, immediate recognition, immediate rewards. But lasting success rarely grows that way. The strongest foundations are built slowly, quietly, consistently. And before wealth becomes visible, discipline usually becomes invisible routine. First, daily effort, daily learning, daily self-control. The small habits nobody applauds eventually create the big outcomes everybody notices later. This is why preparation seasons matter so much. People often admire the reward while ignoring the years of hidden growth behind it. But hidden growth is where real transformation happens. And maybe recently, you have felt like nobody fully understands what you are carrying internally. The pressure, the vision, the silent hope you keep protecting, even after disappointment. That feeling is more common than you think. Many people standing on the edge of breakthrough seasons experience deep internal loneliness. First, not because they are weak, because transformation often separates you emotionally before it elevates you physically. Your old identity no longer fits, but your new reality has not fully appeared yet. So you exist in between worlds for a while. That in-between season is uncomfortable, but it is also sacred because this is where clarity develops, wisdom develops, strength develops, and one day, you suddenly realize something incredible. The painful seasons that once felt meaningless were actually preparing you piece by piece. The delays taught patience, the rejection taught discernment, the isolation taught self-reliance, the pressure taught endurance. Nothing was wasted. Even the moments that nearly broke you carried lessons your future self would eventually need. Nothing was wasted. Not the delay, not the loss, not the season that made no sense while you were inside it. Every piece of what you endured was building something your future self would need. And that truth does not end with you. Somewhere watching right now is the person still inside a season they believe is only taking from them, still unable to see what it is building, still making the case in their mind that this particular pain has no purpose. Through the link in the description or the pinned comment, what you plant here becomes the word that reaches them before they decide the season one. Not toward a voice, toward the one who needs to hear that nothing happening to them right now is being wasted. As you give, bring the thing from your hardest season that you can now see was preparation, the lesson, the strength, the clarity that only came because of what you lost. Place that inside your seed and watch it reach someone still too close to their pain to see what it is making them. Your new season is not as far from where you are standing as the length of the wait has made it feel. And when wealth finally enters your life, you will understand why preparation had to come first. Because without preparation, blessings can become burdens. But when wisdom, discipline, emotional maturity, and clarity are built first, abundance becomes sustainable. The truth is, many people pray for overflow while resisting transformation. But transformation is often the doorway. And if your life has felt unusual lately, if relationships have shifted, if your mindset has changed, if your spirit feels pulled towards something greater, even while your current reality still looks uncertain, there is a reason. Your life may already be moving into a new season behind the scenes, a season where you no longer think from survival, no longer live in constant fear, no longer settle for less than your purpose demands. If you want to stay inside this current, not follow a channel, but remain in the line of what keeps finding you at the right moment, subscribe now. That is not a button. That is your declaration that you are ready for what the next season carries. Type "I am being rebuilt" in the comments, not as a response to a video, as the first words of the person emerging from the season you just described. And one day, you will look back at this difficult chapter and realize it was not the season that destroyed you. It was the season that rebuilt you into someone capable of carrying everything you once prayed for.